Alright, so number one on our Firestarter, guys, we're going to be using this property right here. So this is like, remember we talked about fluency before? So if you see a fraction exponent, it's usually easier to simplify when it's in a radical, because then we can use our exponent properties. So, our radical properties are simplifying radicals. So remember, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say this is A, 5 is M, and 3 is N. All right? So it looks like this. I'm going to rewrite it like this. This one right here is not bad, but I don't usually use that if it tells me to simplify. I'll use that if I'm using variables, or I'm trying to break down radicals a little bit slightly different. So, but I'm going to use this one on the right. You could use either one of this or this, but like this second one's going to be a little bit easier. So I'm going to rewrite this as the cube root, remember that's our index, the cube root of 8 all to the 5th power. Now, once I have this cube root of 8, remember this index right here, this is the index, it tells me that I'm supposed to be using exponents. So I'm going to look for 1 cubed, 1 not going to help me, 2 cubed is 8, that's going to help me. So where it says 8 right here, I'm going to rewrite it as 2 cubed. So now I'm going to change it to the cube root of 2 cubed all to the 5th power. Since the exponents match, they cancel. So now I'm left with just 2 to the 5th, which I can do. You could do it 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, or you can just put in a calculator. Either way, you're going to get 32. So that's how you do that without using a calculator, even though you might have had to do it at the end, 2 to the 5th. So remember, sometimes, guys, without a calculator doesn't necessarily mean you can't use a calculator at all. It just means you better show every step. All right? So don't always think as without a calculator means no calculator available. It just means show all your work. All right, number 2, we're using the same exact idea. It's just rewrite, though. Rewrite's even easier, because all you have to do is, if it looks like fraction exponents, you're going to rewrite it as one of these two. It does not matter which one you use. Or if it looks like one of these two, you're going to rewrite it as a fraction exponent. You don't have to simplify it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find A, M, and M. So I'm going to do this one first. So A is 16, M is 3, N is 2. So it looks like that. So it means I have to rewrite it as this or this. I usually use this one right here if I am dealing with variables. I usually use this one if I'm dealing with just numbers. So since I'm dealing with just numbers, I'm going to rewrite it as the other one. So I'm going to put the square root, which you don't even have to write that little 2 actually, because the 2 is implied, so you could actually just leave that blank and it would be the same answer. So the square root of 16 to the 3rd power, like I said, another option, you could just write that, so that's an option as well. So either that or that, that or that. Those are both the same thing, because remember, if you don't write that, that 2 is implied. It's there. All right. It's like a 1 in front of just x. It's just because we don't write it doesn't mean it's not there. All right. The next thing we're going to do is this one. Now look at that. To me, it looks kind of like this one. So that means I'm going to rewrite it like that. So A is 21, M is 3, N is 4. Alright, I had a picture of my troublemakers who are making this take longer, so in case you keep on hearing some background noise, that's who's making my background noise this morning. So for 3 and 4 on our Firestarter, we're going to be using some properties. I'm going to be using some of these exponent properties, but specifically I'm probably going to be using this one for number 3. I'll use this one a little bit. If you can't see it, because it's just not a good picture, we have A to the M over A to the N. So matching bases, that's important. See how the A's match? That tells you that you can subtract the exponents. So since these 8's match here, I get to rewrite this as 8 to the 1/6 minus 2/3. Now, if you're not good at doing fractions, you just do it in your calculator, but I know that 2/3 is 4/6, so it's 1/6 minus 4/6, which is going to be 8 to the negative 3/6, and I'm going to have to simplify that to 8 to the negative 1/2. Now, cannot have a negative exponent. Remember, cannot have a negative exponent. Alright, so because of that, I'm going to be using this property where, remember, negative 1/2 did not pay their rent, so I'm going to be I'm going to move it to the bottom of the fraction. So he's got to go to mom's basement. So I'm going to make it 1/8 to the 1/2. I would probably take that, but technically it can go further. So I'm going to make this 1 over the square root of 8. Remember, that's where we're using this fluency. Now I'm going to multiply, because remember you can't have a radical on the bottom. So if you remember our box, that has to equal 1. So I'm going to multiply radical 8 over radical 8 because it would make the bottom 8 squared. So my best answer is going to be radical 8 all over the square root of 64, which is just radical 8 all over 8. So that's the best answer. Like I said, I would also take that one probably for 3 out of 4 points if it was a test or something. That's not a bad answer at all either, depending on what they want. Now the reason we had to do that stuff with the bottom, this last line of work here, is because of this hint right here. Remember, simplifying radicals, you can't have a perfect square or any perfect factor, not just square. I could actually cross out the word square. And then, radical on the bottom, we talk about radical properties. And remember, we learned a bunch of stuff with not just square roots, but with nth roots, any roots. All right, that's a new idea. So 4 is going to be using this concept right here. All right, now remember, if 1/5, sometimes if, let's say that was 15 divided by 5, this would help me because then I would do 15 over 5 to get 3 and I'd go from there. But since that cannot be divided, I got to leave it as a fraction. So I'm going to take the radical at the top and the bottom. So this is going to be turning into the cube root of 1 all over the cube root of 5. Now remember, the cube root of 1 is just 1, so it's the cube root of 5. Now remember, I have to have a perfect cube in the bottom. So I'm going to go back to my box. Remember, my conjugate box has to equal 1. Right? This had to equal 1 here. It's got to equal 1 there. So this box right here has to be 1, which means the top and the bottom have to match. That's important. So I wish if this said 5 cubed right here, my life would be much easier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, well, how about I just add 5 squared to it? Because that's going to give me 25. Then I'm going to put that on top. So that means my best answer is going to be the cube root of 25, because 5 squared is 25, all over the cube root of 5 cubed, which is awesome because now the 3's cancel. So my best answer is the cube root of 25 all over 5. And that's it. That's going to finish Firestarter.